and welcome to the show. Again, my name is Anna, and today we have Alan Stevens. He is the International Profiling and Communication Specialist, and I'm really excited to have him on the show because you guys know that I've done some face readings in the past, and I just love this stuff. But without further ado, let me introduce Alan.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Welcome. Would you care to give us a proper introduction of yourself, please?
Well, I'm a profiling and communication specialist, which is all about helping people to be able to build stronger relationships. I'm also a director of the Business of Smiles, which is a charity, and also the creator of the hashtag We Together and the Campfire Project, which is a safe place for men and women from around the world to be able to come together and share their stories. So everything I do is about building relationships.
So how do you help your clients build relationships?
Well, one of the biggest problems we have today is that we're so focused on getting our message across that we talk in the way that we want to be spoken to. We forget that other people need to hear things differently. You know, the old golden rule was treat others as you would have them treat them. But what it comes down to, it's more a case of the platinum rule, which is treat others as they would have you discuss and treat and communicate with them. So it's all about changing the way that you like to be spoken to match the way that they need to be spoken to. And the biggest problem is we don't do that. We're such a hurry to rush in there to get our message across. And that's why we're having so many relationship problems today.
Well, and how do you utilize profiling to assist your clients with this?
Well, first of all, if I can see your face, it doesn't need to be live. It can be a photograph sitting on Facebook, LinkedIn, or somewhere like that. Once I've got that, I've got your personality. And then I know how to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way that you want to be spoken to. And once I do that, then I've got the feedback from your body language and expressions that then tell me, did I read you right? Was there something emotionally going on? And are you telling the truth? But I use that last bit, not as a lie detector, but as a truth seeker. Because if there is something emotionally going on, I want to know what it is to see if I can actually help you with it, first of all. If I'm doing a sale, for instance, and I recognize something's going on, then I'm going to stop that sales process and I'm going to try and help you find out what's happening and help to build the relationship stronger again. Now, we may finish the sale off in that call, or more likely, and that we'll do it another time. But at least you know that I'm focused on you, which is half the job when it comes to selling things to people. They want to know that they can like you, know you, and trust you before they'll actually do business with you. So it's all about building relationships before anything else. Everything else follows.
Yeah. Well, and how did you because we've talked about the face reading, but you haven't actually read my face. Can you read some of my face?
Well, one of the things that stands out that I can see in your face
I
straight away
really don't want to ask you.
big mistake. Everybody does, and they go, "What about me?"
Well, because I've never had someone good read me, so I'm like, I was excited, but the moment it came out, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Before I even start though, so all your listeners know this, there is no right or wrong trait. Every trait you have has an upside and a downside. The upside is where our strengths are. The downside is how we respond when we're stressed. So how do we fix our situation up, our environment, so that we don't get stressed? So that's the whole purpose of it. You have traits that were passed down from your parents, which we call the nature traits. And then we have our nurture traits, which are the ones that we've developed in response to our environment. So every trait you have is perfect for you. If there are times when you get stressed, then it's your environment that's wrong. So change the environment. You don't have to change yourself. That's a beautiful part of this. Looking at you, I know that travel, you're adventurous to a very high level. I know that you want to try new things a lot. I know that you're quick to give to people. You give your time, your energy without even thinking about it, and which sometimes means you give to everybody and there's nothing left in the kitty for yourself or those that come along who are very close to you. I know you like the big picture. Just give me the overview. And if there's enough information there, you'll make your decision quickly. And then it'll be a case of just give me the best way to do it. Get out of the way and let me get it done. And I know that you're self-reliant. You're happy to work on your own. They're just a couple of traits that I can see.
What's something negative?
As I said, every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside.
Yeah.
The upside that automatically giving to people is that people can rely on you. Anytime that they've got stress, they can come to you. The downside of it is you can leave yourself empty. This is the whole thing about it. With the taking action really quickly, being driven by the just give me the best way to do it, as opposed to someone who might be a little bit more what I call motivated by thought, mental motive. They want to look at all the different possibilities and work out which one's the best way to go. In your case, you just want to get into it. Now, that means that and depending on some of the other traits you have, if those traits are aligned to where you just want to get in and get things fast, like taking action very quickly, the end result is, because you only look at the overview, you may miss some information. Most of life, that's perfect. But when it comes to your health and money, that's when you might need to slow down and get a bit more information before you make your decisions.
Yeah.
So you can see there's no right or wrong trait. It's just knowing what environment we're in and how that's going to affect us. And therefore, if it's going to affect us in a negative way, change the environment.
That's incredible, though. So, in this, how do you apply this to your clients so that they, I guess, grow their business, or how is it that you utilize this for them?
Well, it's as people ask me, and that when I'm in networking groups, they usually ask you, what do you bring to the table, as in your products and services? The only answer I can ever give to that one is I just bring the damn table, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your products and services are, if you can't build a relationship, you'll never get the chance to show people how good you are. So therefore, the table is the relationships. And that's what I do. I teach people how to recognize other people, know how to talk to them in a way that the other person needs to be spoken to, so they can make honest connections. But that's what it all comes down to. Everything is build the relationships and the communication to have a better life. Now, in business, that might be to improve workplace relationships. It might be to increase sales. I don't take them through all the sales techniques, but what I do is I teach them how to read that other person, know how they like to take information in. So before they even start to present, they present the right amount of information. They know how that person needs to, how much time they need to think about things. So some people build their confidence. They need to go away, test things out, and make sure they got it right. So you can't rush them. Others have an innate sense of confidence, and they will rush into things quickly. They hear it for the first time and think they've got it. And so with that, knowing how to talk to that person means that we can then give them the information that they need. In your case, I'm analytical. I need a lot of information to make a decision. You like the overview. So I know straight away, if I'm talking to you and I start giving you the information that I would need, you'll switch off. You'll start to finish my sentences off and everything else. This is just going to be natural because I change the environment that makes it uncomfortable for you by being just me. If I understand that you just want the overview, I'll say, look, Anna, there's a lot of information here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give the overview and let you ask the questions that you want to ask, that you think you need to know to make a decision. But if there's something there that I think you need to know that you haven't asked, it's all right if I tell you that then. Now, at this point, you know I'm going to be talking with you, not at you. And so I give the overview and go, okay, Anna, what are your questions? Now, if there was something there that I think you needed to know, at the end of it, I'd say, look, Anna, as I said before, there might be some information there that you need to know. We're at that, that boring stuff. We're there now. Is that okay? And I get a nod just like I got from you then. And then I know straight away that I've got rapport with you. You know that I've been focusing on you, and I know that you've been listening to what I've been saying.
Yeah.
And so this is how it all goes. It's talking to the other person in the style that they need to be spoken to and in the way they need to be treated.
And I want to know how you saw the analytical part, because I thought that's pretty hidden.
Well, this one's actually in the exposure of the eyelids. In your case, there's a fold of skin, but there's a lot of skin between there and the eyelash. In mine, it goes underneath. And this is because looking down like this, I used to be big picture when I was younger. But because of all the analytical work I've had to do, I've now started to change that. So now I look at things, I know I need more information. And so in my case, I've got the concealed eyelids. So as soon as I see someone like you who's got the exposed eyelids, I go, right, Alan, hold back the information, just give them the overview and let them ask the questions that they want to ask. And we'll get it done in the time it needs to be taken.
I haven't looked at the eyelids. That is interesting. Well, sorry, I got something for me to look at later. But you do talk about human pattern recognition and that being beyond psychometric. What is it that you can explain to explain, I guess most people won't even know what human pattern recognition is, let alone.
Right. Yeah, well, when it comes down to psychometric profiling, this is your Myers-Briggs disc profiling, enneagrams, strength testing, etc. It's all the questions that we ask people. I was working with a company. They brought me in because they were currency traders and they taught people how to become currency traders. The end result was none of their people were making any money. So they got me to come in and have a look at why they weren't doing it. So we put people through Myers-Briggs and disc profiling, but then when they went live, they didn't match their personalities.
Yeah.
And I asked a few of them, what's going on here? And I had a number of times people would say to me, we tried to figure out what type of personality we had to have to be a good trader. And I'm going, no, we need to know yours. We need to know that one, because when you get stressed, you always revert back to your own type. As I said, I can be very, recognize that you're a big picture person. I can be talking to a whole bunch of different people like that, one after the other. But if I start to get stressed, next thing I'm going to start giving more information, because that's the way I naturally like it myself.
Right.
So I needed to know that. So I realized that that wasn't working. At the same time, there used to be an old thing called phrenology, which the psychologists had actually started in the first place, which is based on bumps on the head that would work out your character. Well, I'm talking about the face, not the top of the head. And I'm talking about personality, not character, because personality is how you like to do things, whereas the character is how the process behind it, the why, what it is they're trying to do. So two people can look very similar to each other. One could be a saint, one could be a sinner. So what actually happens by knowing how to talk them through their facial features, then, as I said before, I've got the body language and the expressions that when I'm talking to them, I now know whether they're matching their personality or not. Is there something going on? And that's when I can work out their character very quickly. But their personality, I can get that from their photographs and know that before I even talk to them, how to set up the conversation.
This, when I guess that leads to my other question, because you've worked with a lot of different kinds of clients. Are you able to explain to, because I know that you've talked about being able to train them on who they're speaking to and speaking their language or their audience's language, but are you able to also do an analysis on themselves so that they understand their own sales process?
Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
their own.
Yeah. So if I said I need to change to talk to you the way you want to be spoken to, first of all, I've got to know how much I have to change. Therefore, I've got to know me first. Everything is know yourself, then know the other person, read the other person, and then speak to them, change the way you like to be spoken to match the way that they need to be spoken to. So to do that, you have to know where you are on the world scale. When we look at the world, we always think we're at the center of our universe. So everybody is either left or right of us. And there's a few people who might be equal to us as far as on that continuum. How do we change the way we speak? But in my case, if I'm talking to you, where are you on the world scale? Where am I on the world scale? So it takes it away from me being the center of my universe to now being in that universe and needing to talk to everybody else the way that they need to be spoken to. You have to know who you are first of all.
I think that's probably the biggest thing I see and say, like, what is the biggest struggle that you see with people unable to show up authentically and convert? Because
well, a lot of it is around the fears. There are four things. When it comes down to it, everybody has suffered or insecure. Everybody wears a mask. Everybody pretends they're not wearing a mask. And we are a combination of, well, as they say, all our childhood rewards and sufferings, but really what we are is how we've chosen to be to respond to all the things in our life. So with a combination of all those events. So because of that, the world, if we look at it now, there's more insecurity than we've ever had before. We're more connected technology-wise, but less connected on a personal level. People are on their devices. They're actually communicating via text. And we know when it comes to communication, we have the text, we have the body language, the tone of voice, etc. And the words are only worth 7% of the information. Like they're part of the communications. We have to have them, because if I just had tone of voice and body language, and you wouldn't have a clue what I'm actually talking about. So the words have got to be there. They're equally important to the body language and the tone of voice, but the information they convey is only 7% out of the whole 100% of everything put together. And so therefore, having face-to-face conversations, at least having a phone call, somebody sends me a long email or whatever, I usually send it back with 4 initials, TLDR, too long, didn't read, pick up the phone. Because if I go and have a discussion, I'll use the excuse that as I've gotten older and everything else, I've got a bit of arthritis, so I don't like typing. But really, when it comes down to it, the connection with people needs to be at that personal level, and text is not personal. And so being able to read that other person, be able to talk to them in their way, you have to be able to see them, or you at least have to be able to hear them. Because on the phone, the words will go from 7% to only 17%, because the body language actually comes through in the tone of voice. If you're standing up, you'll project your voice more than if you're laying down or reclining. And so it all comes together.
We talked a little bit about what you're able to call out, or not call out, but I guess identify based off of face reading. Are there some examples that you can share with the audience of what you can read, like developmental issues, entrepreneurship, music talent?
Yeah, well, I'll give you 3 different examples of how these styles are used. The very first one, if we're talking about mental health, connections, etc. I've got a mother who asked me to profile her 6-year-old son. He had Asperger. And the school didn't want him. After school care didn't want him. The psychologist said he would need a carer for the rest of his life. I profiled him, and by the way, I did it from his photographs, because there was no way that he would sit still for me. So I got his mother to send me the photographs, and the photographs came where he's wearing different outfits. So even she couldn't get him to sit still long enough to just take the 5 photographs I asked her to take.
Yeah.
Anyway, I gave her a written report. She took it to the school and the after schools care, because they didn't want him they want him more heavily medicated. The end result was they put in place what I suggested. It wasn't changing him. It was changing the way that everybody else spoke to him. To him in the way that he needed to be spoken to. Once he did that, we found that a year later that he was doing presentations in front of the class. And the teacher said he would never be able to do that. Another year later, they let the psychologist go, and with the doctor's approval, medication was off the table. The last testimonial she did for me, or review on his progress, was last year when he was 19, living in Queensland on his own, from New South Wales to Queensland. So those who are listening to this and don't know, I'm from Australia. He ended up moving to Queensland. He's got his own place. He drives a car. He's got a girlfriend, and he is now an assistant manager in a nightclub. We are over-medicating and categorizing our kids and putting them into boxes, because our society needs to change, but we're not changing the society the way we communicate. So the end result, because everyone else changed the way that they were speaking to him to the way he needed to be spoken to, everything changed. This is the whole thing. It's not about changing the other person. We want to get a change from somebody else. We change the way in which we communicate. In business, I had a business coach who sent me his 5 photographs. I sent him a 45-minute audio file talking about what I could see and everything else. And that's when he told me that he used to be an undercover narcotics agent for 2 decades before he became a business coach. And the coaching he's doing at the moment is with the leadership area of the SAS. Now, in that, the end result was that he told me that in those 2 decades, he had used skills that we believe were between 85 and 95% accurate. If they hadn't been, as he said, he wouldn't be alive today. But what I put in that 45-minute audio not only matched, but nuanced everything he learned about himself in those 2 decades. So it shows the accuracy. You can see the longevity from the case of the young boy. But in business, like a business commercial sales, a commercial builder. And he quoted on 5 different buildings. The first one, if he got that, he would get the other deals. But on the first one, he quoted $2 million. The clients wouldn't go above 1.6. He then came to me and I said, well, look, show me their faces. He found one on Google and the other one on the LinkedIn profile. And I said, okay, this is how you need to change the way you like to be spoken to match the way that they need to be spoken to. Well, in that process, what he did, he added $150,000 to his original quote and signed them off on it. And that was just from looking at their 2 faces and going, right, you're talking this way to the senior one. You're talking about money. This guy's not about money. He's about service. This building, they were wanting to get it was in childcare. So they wanted to get as many people in as they could. And I said, right, well, if you put it the right way, you'll get the clients in, but you'll also keep them as well. To his partner, who was also completely different, again, he was focused on the money, but he was also somebody who didn't want to do long projects. So I said, well, if you get the building right, then turn to him and say, right, with the building being right, the people coming in, you'll get the first one filled up quickly. You'll have the money then to move on to the next one sooner. And that will then cascade through the whole lot. So in having a long period, you'll shorten it. So it satisfied both of them. And they very quickly went, yeah, let's do it.
I wish people understood like the power of face reading and negotiation. And I mean, for entrepreneurs that are constantly engaging in negotiation, do you have maybe 1 or 2 key points that are like nonverbal cues that they can look out for, whether they're positive or I don't know?
Well, one of the things that to remember in a negotiation or selling sales process or anything else, a negotiation never starts with a yes. It starts with a no. And so one of the things that most people are out to get is a yes all the way from their clients. Books have been written on it. Get to yes as fast as you can. Right. The trouble with that is how many times have you been talking to somebody and they've been going yes, 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 yes all the way through. And then when you get off the call, you never hear from them again.
Right.
They said yes.
No actual connection.
Yeah, they said yes because they just wanted to get you to shut up and move on.
Right.
They wanted to get off the call. And so by phrasing things the right way, you will get that no from them. You ask a deliberate question where you know they're going to say no. As soon as they say no, that person feels that they're in control. And now you're going to have a discussion. And the person knows that you're going to be talking with them, not at them again. And so this is where that comes in. But always, when it comes down to any communication, always put the other person first. A lot of people will say that, I don't like being a salesperson. I go, well, change the way you're looking at things, because if the salesperson's job is to help the person save time, help them to save money or make money, and also get the emotional outcome that they're looking for. And in doing that properly, you become a problem solver and you're removing their worry and stress.
Right.
You do all of that, you're not a salesperson. And the only way to do that properly is to focus on the other person and go, right, whatever time this call takes is going to take that amount of time based on their personality. So the more I can understand their personality, I can then talk to them in the way they want to be spoken to and spend the appropriate time. On some people, it's going to be shorter than what I originally thought it might be. On others, it's going to be longer. But I'll know that as soon as the conversation starts. And so I can then stage everything from the beginning. So the more I can connect with you immediately, the faster I build rapport and the faster you're going to be listening to what I'm talking about.
Well, and that's my next question. So a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to build rapport quickly. What's one immediate actionable thing or unique thing that they can establish to have a deeper connection with someone. Because I think, especially my generation, we've like lost how to how to human.
Yeah, I love that term, how to human. It's really spot on. See, there's a lot of scripts out there on how to get to yes and how to connect with other people. Put all that aside and just be genuine. Make the priority, I'm interested in the person I'm talking to. If I'm not interested in the person I'm talking to, it's just a wasted conversation. So I really want to know the other person. If I focus on them, they're going to recognize that. How many times, and this is a question for all your audience as well, how many times have you walked into a room and straight away you've gone, oh, I shouldn't be here? You pick up energy in that room. Something's not right. And so by knowing that, we are all attuned to our environment. We pick things up. The same as we pick up the cold, the noises and things like that, we also pick up the energies. And in that, you just recognize that other people are picking your energy up as well. You have to be genuine, because if you're not, it may take some people a little bit of time. As they say, you can, as they say, you used to be able to confuse or manipulate people, everybody in a little bit, and a few people a lot. But the whole thing is, most people and that will pick things up after a little while. So if you're not genuine, you're making it really difficult for yourself. If you're just focused on getting a sale, it's like I'm focused on creating and training my competition. We need more people doing what I'm doing, but they have to be doing it right. Otherwise, it ruins a reputation for everybody. So that being the case, I want to make sure that the people I train, if they just want to make money at the expense of everybody else, I'm not interested. If they want to improve their sales, they want to be able to spend more time with their kids, that sort of thing, then I'm happy to train them. I'm even ecstatic to train them when I get people who go, right, I want to go out and train other people. I want to teach people these skills. Because everything is about building that genuine relationship. That's the most important thing of all. And so those people who are focused on being genuine with other people, they're my target market. They're the ones that I want to spend time with, because as people say to me when I've finished training, they say, well, what happens when I finish training with you? I say, well, look, I hope you like me because you're stuck with me. Because I'm always looking at, well, what's the next thing that I can teach them? How can I help them to be more successful in what they're doing? Because I know if I help them to be more successful, I'm getting what I want to do, which is make a difference in this world.
Yeah.
I know that they're going to go out and continue doing that well after the time that I've left the planet.
Yeah. I'm still, you said if you walk into a room and like you sense something is off, you walk away from danger. I was like, no, you go, you're curious.
That's your adventurous trait.
I know, that's what.
That's the downside of that one. You can get yourself into a bit of trouble.
I know. Okay, that's how I got into the stupid face reading. I was like, oh, that's a red flag. Okay, got it. But it's kind of like you said, like, once I got into it, it was like, wait, I started judging books by their covers, and then I had started having very like significant people surprise me, and I'm like, wait, what? So I started learning what you were saying of be the same features, but you can Jekyll and Hyde, completely different people. I think that's the most fascinating part.
And that's the one thing to remember, but if we do get connected on that personal level, we're going to pick that up pretty quickly. Now, people have got less chance of conning you if you're focused on understanding them, not just what they're talking about. Because as I said, I always say to people as well, how often have you heard someone speaking? Everything sounded perfectly fine, but you just had that feeling that something wasn't right. Mm-hmm. Now, there could be one of two things there. One, they unconsciously or consciously remind you of somebody else who's done the wrong thing by you in the past. So straight away, we have a negative feeling towards this new person. Mm-hmm. Or the actual fact is that and therefore you've been wrong in that assumption. Or you've picked up the non-verbals and realized that what they were saying wasn't matching their body language and their speech and everything else. Now, if that ever happens, we always go with the body language. We go with that gut feeling that something's wrong. So, well, when it comes down to it, really all I'm doing is in training people is teaching them how to be able to recognize what's their biases and what's real. Because every child was a perfect profiler when they were first born and in their very young age. We had to be able to recognize facial features to know who was who. We need to know who dad was, who mum was. We need to know who was safe to be around and who shouldn't be around. And then we needed to be able to pick up the energies, the body language, the tone of voice and everything else to know what state of emotions that person in. If this is somebody that I shouldn't be around and they're angry, well, I should get out of there as quickly as I possibly can. If it's a family member who's angry, I might want to go and find out. I know it's not to do with me. I want to find out why they're unhappy so I can help them. So we needed both of those together. And that's one of the reasons why when I put the rapid trait profiling together, it was based on 4 sciences that worked extremely well on their own. But at the same time, when they put them together, it's an exponential increase on the power of them. And so the facial features, because when we think about it, every feeling we have inside, we express outwardly.
Right.
Our brain controls our muscle movements. So when we are thinking and concentrating in the same way, I like to analyze things. So I'm really going to get down. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull the expressions here. I'm going to pull these lines in here and get these vertical lines here, simply because this is what I do to try and get that information. I think it's got to be exactly right for me to be able to make a decision. So working the muscles over and over, you create ridges and crevices on your face. Exactly. So your face now becomes a roadmap or a history of how you like to think and process.
That is a great way that I like to call it too. It's like a roadmap of the face's history. Because it really does tell you the whole thing.
That's
it's
it.
A story.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Young children, the corner of the mouth is always turned up. What we actually do at rest, whichever muscles are the stronger, the upper muscles here or the ones down below it in the lower part of our face, which are the stronger? If we frown a lot, that corner of our mouth will eventually turn down.
Right.
And the more it turns down, the more it shows us this person is more pessimistic. They've been through a lot of stuff. They've frowned a lot.
Right.
So if we can see that, look at an early photo of them, look at it, see them today, we've got a pretty good idea of what sort of a life a person has had because of those nurture traits, the ones that we create in response to our environment. And so we can now look at somebody and go, oh, you've been through a lot. Now, a few people are probably thinking at this point, what about Botox? Well, the laughter lines, and by the way, any of the ladies who are listening to this, mature age ladies, if I go into a room and I don't know anybody there at all, and I'm looking for people who have got the lines out here, because these people, you only get those lines there when you're extremely happy or you've been out in the sun a lot. But if you're working on a property, for instance, out in the sun, you'll squint a lot, but then you'll have a difference in the texture. If I look at you and the inside of the lines and the outside of the skin on the top, the surface level, it's pretty much the same texture. I know that you have been smiling a lot, really happy to crunch those lines up and create those. So where they say that beauty is only skin deep,
right?
This is beauty that goes all the way to the bone.
Right.
This is somebody who is really happy. They're the people I want to go and talk to. This in a woman I see as a beauty mark. It's a sign of beauty, not just their physical beauty, but their internal beauty as a human being. And this is somebody I want to get to know and meet. Now, if you've got the lines there and you've had Botox, well, the lines might disappear. What's the corner of the mouth telling me? If it's also turned down, I can say, rightio, this is somebody who's had a pretty tough life. They haven't smiled much over a long period of time, and recently they've been really upset because of the downturn. So if I then look at somebody in the corner of their mouth is turned up, but there's no lines here, they've probably had some cosmetic surgery done. So the face just gives away everything. Now, they used to say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, your face is a window to your mind.
Are you able to see the actual cosmetic surgery? Because I've been able to see, like, when people have, like, their noses done, it's almost like a discoloration.
You'll find that different parts of the skin, any work you've had done is going to affect, well, of course, the shape, but also the texture of the skin and everything else. But the other thing, this is why you need all 4 skills together. Just to look at somebody's face and say, oh, this is their personality, and then ignore everything else, I'm leaving myself short in the process. If I look at somebody and I go, that's their personality, as I said, I'll then change the way in which I speak to them. This is why the body language and expressions then on their face, especially the micro expressions, little twitches that happen the moment something is said or happens around the person, tells me straight away whether I've actually read that, if there's something going on with that person. Are they telling the truth? Is there something that's, well, it's 3 things. I look to see things in context. I look to see them if they're congruent. And I see them if they're also in clusters. Because looking at one little twitch of the mouth, if I articulate a lot, the nose itself has got erectile tissue, and it's what the mucosa inside the nose is designed this way, that if we have a cold or when we're breathing, the nose is expanding and contracting on the inside all the time. It causes the air to swell as the air's coming in, it causes it to swirl around and throw the impurities out and get caught into the hairs inside the nose. And so that happens in the face. But if you articulate a lot, because we've got a lot of nerve endings and everything else close to the surface, the end result is that we will start to get a bit of an itch, and we'll scratch it. But if somebody just goes a quick little, as I'm talking away, and they seem to be happy in their face, there's a little pull up on the side, that on its own tells me that would have been an indication of somebody who had shown contempt towards somebody when one side goes up. But to assume that is the case, I'm looking at everything else. Was it just a twitch, or was it an actual indicator of a micro expression? And so it has to be put together with the other things. It's like your personality. If I look at one trait, that doesn't define you. It's the combination of traits that tell me your personality. So it's always get them in clusters, get as many bits of information you can to point it in the right direction. So when I grew up, over the fireplace in the home, there was always, my mother used to have 3 porcelain ducks, one big one, a smaller one, and a smaller one again, all flying in the same direction. It's where the old saying of get your ducks in a row came from. In other words, make sure that everything's pointing in the same direction. So I want to get as much information around the face and see how things affect each other. Things pointing this way, or are they pointing that way, or are they all over the place? And so with that, this is what I use then to determine, have I read the person right, or is there something emotionally going on? And so, go ahead.
I'm just responding to a couple of the chats that we got in questions that we got in the chat. So and I'm hearing what you're saying, but I have one more question. Your ears stick out a little bit, and I wanted to know what it means.
Well, besides having been called Yoda when I was younger,
but that's why you have a special place in my heart, because you remind me of Yoda. And I'm like, so is there any correlation? Because I would just make my day.
What you'll find is that when people's ears are pinned back like that, especially when you can't see them, this is somebody who lets a lot of stuff go past. They're usually free with their money. They don't think about it. They'll spend it without thinking. When it's right out, when the whole ear is out, the base as well, not just the top like mine, but the base as well, you've got somebody who needs to be in control. And we have a Prime Minister over here, Tony Abbott, who always, just the way he moved, he was always so stiff. When he met people and everything else, he has to be in control all the time. And it came out, like as soon as I saw his ears and that, I went, oh, here's somebody who needs to be in control.
Yeah.
And one day he was being interviewed by a journalist, and the journalist asked him a question that he didn't really have the answer to, and he froze. And he froze so much that for about 5 minutes, he couldn't even answer the journalist while the journalist kept on asking questions. That trait on him is so strong, and that's why he needs to be fully prepared before he goes into any conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And so This is one of the things, so every trait, but that on itself, on its own, wasn't the controlling factor. It was the other traits that added to it. So the other traits will either contribute to it. They'll either, as they say, enhance that first trait, or they'll then moderate it.
Right.
So if you've got someone who just wants the overview, just give them a little bit of information. If they also then have that physical motive, they just want the best way to do it so they can get to it. If they have a risk trait, taker trait in their hand, and they've also got someone who's got the innate self-confidence, this is somebody who is just boom, out there and goes really quickly. And the people of the opposite traits will go, they're crazy. So this is where I work with 3 levels. The traits being at one extreme, working through the middle to the other extreme. I work on a sliding scale. When I teach this, I go A, B, C. So I teach people who are an A why they clash with a C, and therefore how to change the way they like to be spoken to match that person and understand them. And I do it the opposite way for the other direction. The person in the middle, they're just a natural born mediator between those 2 extremes on that trait. And so, as I said, there's no right or wrong trait. Every trait you have is perfect.
Right.
And that's where people don't have to think, I'm not good enough anymore. This is the quickest way to get over your self-esteem and confidence levels, the issues that might be going on, to realize that what you're trying to do is to fit into somebody else's world and expectations, when you are better off sticking to your own level, because that's where you're more productive, you're more valuable to yourself, and you're more valuable to other people as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alan, for being on the show today. I have also attached your links in the description. So if anyone is also interested in finding out more about your course with face readings and bettering themselves and their communications, they can also reach out. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. And we very much appreciate you and would love to have you back anytime you can.
I'd love to. And by the way, for your audience, if they go to my training platform or go to my website and they look for the online courses, they'll find a free one there that they can go and test a couple of the traits for themselves. It talks about what I do in other areas, but it also gives them a couple of traits that can go out and test for themselves. The best way to, as I say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So when you go and apply something, then you'll know whether it works or not.
That is the best. Actually, let me just drop the links in the chat just in case as well. Cool. And again, thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you later on this week. Again, and